What's up guys, this is Yasin. So in this video we're going to be going over the deck list from the 3v3 YCS Salvador that just happened at the exact same time as another YCS, that was YCS Sydney, that I participated in, but I'm not gonna go over like too much in detail on like my own personal experience because I plan on dedicating a full video tomorrow for that. So yeah, stay tuned. But anyways, before we go any further, you already know the drill. Smash the like and subscribe button. It really motivates me a lot to keep breathing. And also, yeah, shoutouts to my Crystron and Blue Eye Spreadsheet. You already know where to find them in my website, which will always be at the very top of the description box below. And with that being said, let's get right into it. Okay, so first of all, we only have 44 deck lists out of 48 in here, so top 16 multiplied by 3, so that's 32 plus 16, 48, and then minus 4 for the unknowns, because one of the teams here, we don't really know their decks, and also maybe one other. And then we have everything else, so yeah, that's 25, 28. 28 ratio out of 44. That's kind of a lot. Actually, I don't really... My maths aren't the best, but I'm actually going to check this out real quick. 28 divided by 44, that should be, yeah, 64%. Holy shit. Yeah, no, that's actually kind of concerning. It's more than it's ever been, but at the same time, this is a YCS, a team YCS in South America. So the caliber of gameplay is as competitive as it gets, because majority of the teams here are actually, I mean, not really the majority, but a huge amount of them are foreigners. They're not even from San Salvador. They're basically from North America or some other countries in South America. So yeah, obviously the people that are doing well in these events, you already know that they spend quite a lot of time figuring out, what is the best deck, how to have an edge, etc. And that's the reason why we're seeing a lot of the same decks over here, because they're really trying to win the whole thing. But yeah, unfortunately, not a lot of spicy decks. The only spicy ones, I guess you can say, would be Bestial Fiendsmith, Ubel, and then 2 Blue Eyes only out of the top 44. And then 9 Malice, 28 Raziel, as well as 2 Mermail. And yes, the event was won by the 2 Mermails as well as a Pure Raziel. So Cameron Neal played a Pure Raziel, and then Kamal and Chris Urena played pretty much the exact same deck list, except for, I think, 1 or 2 cards. Yeah, in this deck list, as we can see from Cameron, we can see the inclusion of Double or Nothing, which is gaining a little bit in popularity, but it's not everywhere, and I don't think it's going to be, a staple moving forward. It's just a decent card. Photon Pappy Operative is actually very interesting, so you can force a monster to go from defense to attack, and then lose a 600 attack. That way, Double or Nothing will OTK, even if your opponent has a monster in defense. So that's actually very clever. And also, we're seeing Ultimate Slayer with a Link, a Fusion, a Synchro, and obviously the Aggregator that is already there for X-Raziel. So this Ultimate Slayer is never dead. It's always there to either beat Malice or Raziel, or even other decks like Crystron and stuff like that. It's really scary, but this deck list has literally a 0% chance of beating Mermail going second, because it is the board breaker approach. And Ultimate Slayer against Mermail, maybe not the best, because you can't even target the things, because obviously the Neptibus Royal King or something, the Link 3, that prevents things it points to from being targeted, so you have to target the Neptibus, which is kind of mediocre. And then yeah, you set the Trap Brigade into Garura, and then you still lose, because your opponent might also have like Dweller on top of everything else. So yeah, Mermail is definitely a nightmare for this deck, meaning that Mermail is also a very good pick, which is why both Chris Urena and Kamal managed to, do extremely well with this deck. So yeah, Chris played the Small World in the main deck and Kamal didn't, and apart from that, I think that the deck is just pretty much the exact same. This monster is now a staple. Everybody plays it, the Glutinous Reptolfin Grethis. It's kind of like an extender off of the Coelacanth, which also everybody is playing, but we're not seeing the Water Bear statue in this deck list. Everything else is just like, I want to say, established ratios, like the 2 Passadra, that's pretty much a 2 of in everyone's deck list, and then 3 of everything else. Some people are crazy and play 1 Abyss Shrine. I really don't like this. I think this card is broken to physically hard draw. You want to play 3. And yeah, everything else is just clean. I love this deck list. I think it's really good. We're also seeing 15 Hand Shafts out of 44 in here, because obviously there is no Small World. But Small World, you can argue, it can be a board breaker against Malice, because you can Small World into Ash, and then you can Ash their MTPO7, and their end board is maybe less oppressive. But yeah, like I said, fantastic deck list. I think I agree with pretty much everything that I'm seeing here. So it's really nice seeing Chris and Kamal do this well. And also Xyz on Core, but no Forbidden Droplet in order to out, Abyss Dweller. So yeah, Xyz on Core, there's nothing you can do about it. It will always resolve. That's really cool. So yeah, draw phase, turn player priority, Xyz on Core back the Abyss Dweller. There is no counterplay. I mean, There might be, yeah, if your opponent, I don't know, your opponent would have to do like really weird things, like have an Abyss Dweller underneath the Razor Detonator, and then you play into the board, and then the Dweller gets summoned eventually. And if you were unable to use Xyz Encore because you're locked that's under something at this point, that could work. But I'm really unsure. And also, you're summoning what? Hold on a second. Yeah, you're the one summoning monsters back. So I don't know. Maybe there is a way to like play around Xyz Encore on Abyss Dweller, but it would be way too complicated. So I don't think it's ever gonna come up. And yeah, don't try to figure out what combo I'm talking about because I will not expose. Sorry about that. But yeah, we can also see Gravekeeper's Inscription, by the way, in Cameron Neal's side deck, so that's another really cool card. And then also shoutouts to my boy, Austin, as well as Landon and Ruben for doing, I think that's 3rd place, actually, with all 3 of them playing Razor Fiendsmith. So I'm not going to cover this because it's really boring. Shoutouts to Joseph, a great player with Razor Fiendsmith. This is also a really cool team. So this time we have 3 different decks, Razor Fiendsmith. This is, I think, pure Razio, as well as Yubel. So we will be going over Yubel, even though I kind of know the story. I know Patrick didn't really play Yubel because he knew it was the best deck, but rather because he was really busy and because, you know, he's moving to Brazil, I think, right? And yeah, he didn't have too much time to play test for this format. But yeah, Yubel obviously has quite a lot of experience with it. He played it at YCS Niagara. And yeah, this is a really cool deck list, but there's not as many starters as I actually thought he would play, because he's only on 2 Dark Beckoning Beast and only 2 Opening of the Spirit Gates, which I believe is now a 3. So it is interesting to see only 2 when you can play 3 of both of these cards. But apart from that, yeah, only 1 Shracked. I used to play 3. And also he's playing Lacrima. Lacrima with no Fiendsmith Paradise. Usually I think this card is kind of useless, but I don't have this in my own deck list because this card is only really good if you play like Cross Sheep, and I don't really think there's any combos that are worth it with Cross Sheep, so I just think you can get away cutting this card completely. But yeah, I believe this is like 17 or 18 starters, so out of 45, so 2, 5, 6, 7, 10, and then 13, 15, 16, 17, 18, yeah, 18 starters. That's relatively good. I don't really have my hypergeometric distribution calculator on me, but that should be around the 92, 93-ish%, I believe. I mean, it's decent. So yeah, Yubel is a consistent deck, actually. You can't sleep on that. The side deck has Red Resonator, which is there for time. I don't really think you should try to go for time, but obviously this is just a one-of, so might as well. You always have access to it. But there's no Chaos Hunter, which I don't know if I'm a really big fan of. I guess, like, he kind of takes the L if you play against Malice, because Malice is just such a bad matchup for this deck overall. You have to deal with the Bestials, with Shifter, with Dominus Impulse. So many bad cards that can destroy you. And also, going second against Malice looks completely atrocious. Like, extremely bad. And the fact that there's no Mannequin Cat to summon back the Shifter to then target it and summon Chaos Hunter, I think for me that's a little unfortunate. But apart from that, yeah, everything else is really nice. So that's a cool deck list for sure. Huge shoutouts to my boys for doing well. Crazy, man. 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 North American teams in the top 16. That is wild. 25%. Not even from that continent. That's kind of crazy. But yeah, also huge shoutouts to my other friends. So Francisco with Malice Fiendsmith. I will go over it just because you're my boy, and just in case you're watching this, I want to put some respect on your name. But yeah, 8 Bestials, I think. 6, 7, 8, yeah. With 3 Shifter, 3 Impulse, 3 Imperm. That's 9, is that 17 hand shops, right? And then 2 Talon, 1 Thrust. And maxing out on consistency. He's not playing around. He's not trying to brick. 4 field spells with 3 Chessy Cat. I rarely see this. Usually people are on 3 field spells, so no terraforming, and only 1 to 2 Chessy Cat, so that they can play Metal Tronus in the main deck. But yeah, Francisco just said, you know what, screw that. I want my deck to be as proactive going second as humanly possible. And I think this deck is very, very scary if you win the dice roll and you have to face it, because with this amount of Bestials, if your Dormouse gets impermed and you can just link off into a Link Decoder and then, you know, Bestial back the Dormouse, you just win the game on the spot. Like, even if you get impermed again, it doesn't matter. The Bestials are your best friend. They're better than cross-outing like an imperm in this deck. That's the reason why nobody plays cross-out, and they rather play other cards like Thrust just in case they get like Lancet or something. They can always thrust into something for next turn. So they can thrust into Impulse, into Imperm, and then post game 1, they can thrust into D-Bear for Pure Razul, into Different Dimension Ground for Razul Fiendsmith and Mitsurugi Razul, and then Artifact Sanctum into Lancia for the mirror match. So everything here is very coherent. That's a great deck list. Also has both Cerberus and Phoenix. So Cerberus is there for Chaos Hunter, and then Nightmare Phoenix is there for, you know, floodgates that you can't out with your engines, such as Imperial Iron Wall, which nobody really plays, and other cards like Shadow Imprisoning Mirror, stuff like that. Obviously, this is kind of like unrealistic. Also, Soul Drain. You shouldn't sleep on that possibility, but yeah, obviously SPL Knight does deal with Soul Drain, but whatever, you get the point. So yeah, shoutouts to Francisco, and then Rafael Rage, another really goated player, and also Juan Mateo, but yeah, this one we don't really have the deck list. Rafael Rage, this is a Raziel Fiendsmith deck that is very interesting. Only 2 X Raziel, but to be fair, it's not that unique, right? A lot of people are playing only 2X in the deck, and sometimes they're playing way more than 40. But yeah, everything else is also understandable. A lot of hand shafts, man. 3, 6, 9, 12, 14, 17 hand shafts out of 40 in Raziel Fiendsmith. Usually it's not like 17 because people want to play like more talent and also more engine cards, but yeah, this is exactly 40 with 17 out of 40. So also maxing out on hand shafts, and also 3 tracked. You also don't see this every day. A lot of people are on 2 tracked. And I also, by the way, I've had an OCG player discuss with me, you know, Raziel Fiendsmith, its viability in the TCG. And he actually said that he thinks that Raziel Fiendsmith, even in TCG, they should be playing plug-in. So maybe this is something to consider. Obviously, coming again from an OCG player who has a lot of experience, it could be nice to see one day maybe like plug-in being played on the deck, but I don't know if it's like necessary. I think you can get away without it, and it just at the end of the day, it is 1 extra brick. But yeah, you definitely shouldn't play Plasma Home. Yeah, apart from that, there's kind of like nothing super interesting. There's a Blue Eyes here, which is really cool, but we don't have the deck list. And then we also have Vis TK or something with Santiago Marin Lopez. So again, another one of my boy. With Bestial Fiendsmith also. So that's one of the decks that I had in consideration for YCS Sydney. And yeah, Esteban with the Blue Eyes deck, the only one that we have access to, I believe. A huge amount of hand traps again out of 42 cards. Okay, so this time we have Magnamut and Juizworm. I like this because it means that your Juizworm can out a... Well, it means that your Magnamut can out a Detonator on game 1. And there's no Baldric, so I don't know... I think you should be playing Baldric just because your Hieratic Seal can, you know, float into Magnamut, and then Magnamut and Face Surge Baldric, and that's 1 extra interruption, but whatever, it's not like the end of the world if you don't play it. I think maybe at least you should side deck it. Ancient Fairy Dragon, by the way, even if you don't play Secret Village of the Spellcasters, this card is at the very least a time card, so it does make sense to have Ancient Fairy. Scale Drain obviously is the nuts, right? You should play this card if you can. Lancia, Meows, Chaos Hunter, the best cards against Malice. These cards are how you auto-win. Ultimate Slayer for the Blue Eye, the Raziel matchup. Not really for Blue Eyes at all, actually, because it doesn't really do much of anything. You can just tag out, well, you can chain True Light and then chain Blue Eye Spirit so that your monster doesn't get bounced back. And nobody's really playing Golden Cloud Beast Malong, except for, of course, Cameron Neal. Yeah, how many hand traps is there? 2, 5, 8, 10, 13, 16. 16 hand traps and 3 Metal Chonus, so that's 19 non-engine. And we're also seeing 1 extra Neo Kaiser Seal, so 1 extra starter. So yeah, we're playing, I believe this is 16 starters with 19 hand shafts, I think. Yeah, I mean 19 non-engine in 42 cards, so a lower probability of drawing the bricks, and a higher probability overall of drawing your good cards, which means your starters and your hand shafts. This is gorgeous. This is what you should try to aim. A deck where you just play more starters, more non-engine, and less bricks overall. If you can try to do something like this, then usually you're going to be in a very good position. And also no Crimson Dragon, no Cosmic Blazar, because it's kind of unrealistic. You're always getting hand trapped infinite times. You might as well have a more diversified extra deck because you need those utility cards in the form of Typhon and Lina. I think that's pretty much it for this one, so we're going to go straight into YCS Sydney, which actually has infinitely more variety, because this time it's not, you know, South America, where there's a lot of North Americans that travel there, that play super competitive. There are way more players, so obviously a higher likelihood of encountering some spicy decks. And there were a lot of spicy decks, actually, not only in Top Cut, but overall just in the YCS. But this time we have very, like, little diversity in players. As you can see, the Australian flag is basically everywhere here. We have, maybe there might be some Kiwis here, but I actually saw maybe 31 Australian flags and 1 Canadian flag. I really wonder who this is. Very interesting. This guy's name is, what, Yacineygo? Yeah, I think I've seen this before. But yeah, anyways, Raziel, only 11 out of the top 32. Actually, no, there's, yeah, 3 Mitsurugi, so yeah, 14 out of top 32. That's less than 50%, which means that obviously a lot more Rogue were able to sneak into Top Cut. This time we have significantly more Malice than at YCS Salvador, because, yeah, that one was, what, 9 out of 44, which is not that much, but this time we have 9 out of 32. Definitely way more. And then 3 Blue Eyes, again, 3 out of 32, whereas Salvador was only 3... hold on a second. Yeah, it was 2 out of 44. Yeah, that's way less. So yeah, Blue Eyes definitely, I think the 3rd most represented deck in Top Cut. Yeah, Mitsurugi doesn't count as a deck. Mitsurugi is still a Raziel deck because Raziel should include pure Raziel, Raziel Fiendsmith, and Raziel Mitsurugi. At the end of the day, it is a Mitsurugi engine in the Raziel deck and not really the other way around. Anyways, one Crystron in top 32. Actually, this Crystron player managed to make it all the way to top 8. Again, I really wonder who this guy is. But if he had like a Crystron spreadsheet, that probably explained why he was able to do this well, right? I'm actually way too tired to make jokes at this point. But yeah, anyways, Phantom Knight, shout out to Micah, of course, the GOAT, man! And it's not even the first time he topped with Phantom Knights. This is the 2nd YCS in a row where he tops with it. So it's actually really funny how only this YCS had a lot of hype for Phantom Knight and not the last one. People make no sense. This, again, it's not the first time. He's gonna keep doing this. Micah is a great player. I can confirm myself. So, yeah, huge shoutouts to you if you're watching this. Anyways, Memento, yeah, whatever. This deck is always in Top Cut, Bestial, Fiendsmith, and then White Forest, which is also another really cool deck, and Mermail, only one, and I played against him, so obviously, I can confirm also that this deck is nice. But yeah, anyways, the winner was Frederick, which is... I mean, this guy is the GOAT. He really is. He played incredibly well. Huge, massive shoutouts to Frederick. And yeah, he played pure Raziel. It was definitely his weekend for winning the whole thing. I mean, God gave him the opportunity to do well, and he seized it really well. But yeah, his deck list was nice. Obviously, there's cross out in the main deck, so this is why we can see like some random 1-ofs and 2-ofs, so 1 Drool as well as 2 Nibiru. But obviously, again, it does make sense when you're playing cross out. You might as well have a lot of diversity in it. So yeah, 1 talent, and then the call by, double desires, 1 prosperity, not trying to draw way too many pots. I like that. And yeah, everything overall is just really nice. Yeah, 2 field spells because of desires. The extra deck, yeah, very diverse. Haggard Lizardos. This is a water monster with 800 attack. Hold on a second. That's interesting. Wait. Okay, yeah, because I'm pretty sure he said that Metal Chonus could actually be used against me. Because, yeah, we did play against each other in top 8, but I really wonder what is the Metal Chonus target for Crystron Tristalos, because hold on a second, Tristalos has 500 attack or 800? Yo, I don't know why, yeah, it has 800 attack, yeah, actually, so Haggard Lizardos is the perfect Metal Chonus target. There we go, right, but he doesn't have anything for Ephidon Dragster, I believe, because there is no light with 2100 attack, right? Yeah, 23... 25, that's a dark. It's really nice how Metal Chonus can randomly just overlap for other decks. And yeah, just when you're playing a lot of like different cards, obviously you need to know exactly how they all work. A really cool deck list, like I said. And then Andrew played Malice and got 2nd place. It's definitely not the same as Francisco's, because this time we have less Bestials, obviously still a huge amount, right? There's only 1 less Baldrake and 1 less Saronir. But there's more other hand traps because we have Ash, Fueros, and we also have the Metal Chonus in the main deck. So yeah, 41 cards, and there's like probably like 26 non-engine or something ridiculous. So yeah, 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, 18, 21, 24, 25, 26. Oh, there we go. I said a random number. It was actually 26. That's crazy. That is insane. This deck might as well be called like non-engine featuring Malice at this point. You're barely playing Malice cards. It's so crazy how broken this engine is, right? Everything minus like Shashir Cat and the trap cards are like 1-card starters, and they get you so far. It's completely absurd. This deck's power is like off the charts, and then you can play so many hand traps. It's such a minimalistic commitment. There's a very good reason why this deck is broken, and yeah, the side deck is also very scary. I don't want to have to deal with it. Dimensional Barrier, DDG, Sanctum, Thrust into Lancia again for the mirror match. So yeah, regardless of how you hand trap this deck, you will not be safe, my friend. And yeah, also Different Dimension Ground is also for Mermails, just in case you're wondering. Yeah, if you Lancia this deck and you're playing this deck, yeah, you don't necessarily win, right? You can still lose. Blue Eyes from a World's competitor, so that's also really cool. This was a very interesting list because we see 3 triple tactic talent in the main deck, and only 2 Fueros, which you do not see every day. Obviously, if you can play 3 Fueros, you kind of go for it. But yeah, only 2 is rather unique. I really wonder why Dominus Purge is seeing play in every Blue Eyes deck list as a 3-of, because I don't even think this card is that great. If you purge the Duo Drive and your opponent makes a Detonator, you're in a really bad position because you can't even make a Typhon since you're locked under no dark effects only. So it behaves strictly worse than like Valor and Imperm, and even Ogre to some extent. So I really don't like Dominus Purge too much. I just don't think you need this card overall, and if there's better cards to play, I think you should play them. Like Bestial Magnemite, I think, is already a very good card, so if you can play that, even if you play no other Bestials, at least play the one of Magnemite. There's like no drawback to playing that. But yeah, whatever, 41 cards was still a huge amount of hand traps, so yeah, 8, 11, 14, 3 talent, of course, and the Call by the Grave, so that's, what, 18 on engine, and then obviously it's always 7 bricks, and should be 15 to 16 starters, because, yeah, 3, 6, 9, 12, and then, hold on a second, 15, and then this, the 16th starter, I guess you can say, is Prosperity. Very high likelihood of getting what you want. And yeah, pretty much everybody's playing the exact same extra deck, so yeah, no Crimson Dragon again. It should, at this point, you should not, you know, expect any different. I think one way to really make this deck even better, I already mentioned this, but it's by playing more cards. So if you feel like you're still drawing bricks too often in 41 cards, do not, rather feel free to play more, like 45, even 50 potentially. It really could make a lot of sense. There's a lot of other unexplored starters that I think you should maybe consider if you just want to play a fatter deck. You can even go upwards of like 60, but then at this point it doesn't make any sense because you won't see your side deck cards too often. So yeah, maybe like 45, 46, something like that could definitely be good in Blue Eyes. But then if you play 46, you need 61 sleeves, which means you gotta buy 2 packs of sleeves just for your deck, so it's really annoying. So yeah, that's the reason why we often see like 45 cards decks, just so that it's 45 for the main deck, 15 for the side. You only have to spend your money on 1 pack of sleeve. This is like the most bullshit excuse I can come up with, but it's the only thing that comes to my mind. Anyways, we're gonna skip Malice, and either way we can't even go into it. We're gonna go straight into Crystron, which, yeah, obviously that was played by me. So it's really interesting that I get to cover my own deck in my own video, but yeah, here it is. My deck profile explained everything very well, so you shouldn't really have any, you know, doubts at this point on why I'm playing certain cards. Yeah, again, if you're still confused, just to go check out my video. But yeah, all the ratios I want to say were very good for me. I'm really satisfied with how the deck performed. I think the only change I would bring, Prosperity, was really bad for me. I didn't really like it too much. I sometimes had to banish 6 cards, and like a really good card was in my top 3, so I would just neg a lot from my extra deck for no good reason. Or sometimes I would banish 3, and then I would get absolutely nothing. So yeah, I'd rather just see a card that is guaranteed to do something instead of a card that could do something. So yeah, Prosperity also plays into Lancia, which is a weakness for this deck. So obviously, like I said, if I can cut this card, that would probably be better. Molchemy Perolia was also kind of mediocre for me. I kept drawing it off of like Furos or as the 6th card for turn, or when it was too late. Maybe it's just my experience being unlucky with Perolia, but that card was garbage. Whereas Furos for me was completely unfair, like actually ridiculously broken. Yeah, huge gap honestly between both, and I never sided in any of these cards because I played against 0 Malice, but I played against like 8 Raziel. It is completely insane. Yeah, there's not too much to say for the main deck. I played, like I said, a huge amount of non-engine, so 13 hand traps, 3 droplet, as well as some Fenrir's, which kind of doubled down as non-engine and engine cards. And Prosperity could also be a non-engine card with Call by the Grave. So you can argue like 19, 20 non-engine potentially. And the deck is super consistent. I had no complaints whatsoever. It was one of the best decks I've ever played. I mean, maybe not in terms of like sheer power level, but in terms of, you know, everything overall. It's a very balanced and well toolboxy and resourceful deck. And people were misplaying quite heavily against me, so I could really capitalize off of that. But yeah, the extra deck also had a very interesting card by the name of High Speed Road Hagoita. I won't explain it in this video, but I'm actually going to make a dedicated video just on this because it's super, super interesting. And overall, this deck is, like I said, very, very fun and toolboxy. So if you just want like a deck that is different from, you know, Raziel, Malice, etc., this deck is for you. And again, my Crystron spreadsheet covers it very well. You know, I say this and it really does feel like a joke, but I mean it seriously. If you do want to like compete, you know, at a high level tournament with Crystron, I think you can learn very efficiently with my spreadsheet, and the deck is actually going to be very cheap once we get to the reprints, because the only really expensive cards are like Quarion Gondrax and the Citri and Stofefnir, but they're going to get reprinted anyways, so everything is going to be dirt cheap. Only cards that are going to be expensive are going to be Fueros and the Kashtiras, and you can easily just play 2 Fenrirs and, you know, call it a day. And if you really don't want to play these cards, you can still play like the Terra Top package. And honestly, there's not even that much of a gap, but I still think that Kashtiras are better. Whatever, like I said, this is not like an in-depth review on, you know, my YCS experience, so I'm not gonna waste too much of your time there, and I'm gonna keep going with more deck lists. So this is Micah's. I also made a deck profile on the Phantom Knight deck, so yeah, not much here for me to cover, but there's 3 different engines in here, so obviously Phantom Knight, Horus, and Fiendsmith. All 3 of these engines, you know, a lot of recursion, a lot of graveyard effects, very grindy, so yeah, makes a lot of sense why this deck is so interesting. And also Xyz on core for Abyss Dweller, so he really thought about everything. Lava Golem, because the normal summon doesn't really matter too much. You can easily just Lava Golem your opponent and then special Terra Top effect, or activate Engraver, or activate Mseti, and stuff like that. So yeah, a really cool deck, infinite things that you can do there. Daniel Pollard, which I did play in top 16, shoutouts to you, he played Blue Eyes Buster Blader, very interesting. And also, the deck list itself is rather interesting. There's only one Buster Blader with 1 memory, so obviously both of these cards are Garnets. He did tell me that he drew these cards a little too often, so they kind of had to serve as discard fodder, but, you know, it is what it is, right? You only play... If you only play 1 of each, if you draw 1, then it's a Garnet, and the entire package does nothing. So you might as well commit to, like, a very small package just so that you don't see these cards. And you should play more than 40 so that you see them even less often. So he really had the good idea of playing 43, and then playing less normal summons, so only 2 Sage with 2 Whelps, and then, you know, playing, again, more cards in the deck list. So overall, this is a really nice list. Very interesting extra deck as well. So yeah, a bunch of synchros, including a Hot Red Dragon Archfiend Abyss. So just in case you're wondering why does this card here, you can use the Buster Dragon as a material with like something else. You make this, and then yeah, this card is actually quite good. Even has another effect when it inflicts battle damage. You can revive back a tuner in your from your grave. But obviously the main thing about it is that you can negate any card or effect on the field. So even if your opponent activates Dark Ruler, you can chain True Light and then chain Hot Red to your own True Light to still negate Dark Ruler. So yeah, keep that in mind. Apart from that, hold on a second. Yeah, Mitsurugi Raziel, I'm not really gonna go over that. Another Blue Eyes. Yeah, I mean, at this point, we already covered a lot of Blue Eyes. Memento, okay, and then White Forest. Yeah, that's pretty much it, because the Mermail doesn't really have a deck list here. Okay, so Memento also won the German Open. And yeah, this deck is really good, by the way. Everybody is always going to misplay against you. This was a full board breaker deck list, so only 1 Furos in the main deck. And no crossout. So yeah, this is very interesting. I don't really know why the Furos is there as a one-of. You might as well play 3 or 0 if you're really trying to like commit to, you know, playing board breakers, but whatever. It doesn't really matter too much at this point. Yeah, this deck will never play into Talent and Thrust going first, which is a really cool thing. So yeah, this is definitely a really nice list. The extra deck space doesn't really look too tight, so yeah, you can definitely play Ultimate Slayer for the aggregator. And oh, actually, no, never mind. Yeah, it's pretty tight. Yeah, especially if you want to play like multiple Charmer monsters and a Gave Dragon for time. I don't know how necessary these cards are. But yeah, there's also Golden Cloud Beast Malong. Okay, very interesting. Maybe you can cut the Gave Dragon and like one of the Charmers. I don't really think you need Lina too much. Maybe I'm missing something. Maybe you do need it. I don't know. Like to make Lina, you would need like Mace and something else, right? It's the only light monster that I can think of. Or maybe there's a Link one like Artemis using like Anguish. Yeah, maybe. I'm not a great Memento player, so if you can help me out there, that would be appreciated. And a huge amount of handshafts in the side deck, and they're all like really good. But again, I would do 3 Furos at this point. I don't know, only 1 and then side 3 Perulia? To me, that doesn't make too much sense. Because again, for me, this card was broken. Like, it was the best handshot by a significant margin. So I would do 3 Furos, but whatever. It's not too bad. Yeah, the final deck list is going to be White Forest. Again, another really cool deck. So yeah, this deck does unfortunately have some consistency issues from what I'm seeing, because not everything is a starter, and there's also no, not a stellar. Hold on a second. The level 2 that special summons from deck, whatever, you get the point. 3 LZ, 3 Sylvie, so that's 6, 7, and then, yeah, 10, 12, that's it? Only 12 starters? Yeah, that's not a lot, huh? Yeah, it's really not a lot. Yeah, so very often you can go first and then just do nothing, because you can draw like the incorrect combination of cards. You can draw like too many hand traps. You can draw hand traps with Tails, hand traps with Sinful Spells of the White Forest, or like Morion, or Hose, like, I was gonna say Hose, cross out Call by Talent when you got no plays. That's really bad, I don't know. And Yeah, like when you have to like rely on LZ as a mean of the White Forest to play, you know that your hand is dog shit. Or if you have to like normal summon Droll and then activate Tails, that is so bad. That is so freaking bad. But yeah, this is like one of the issues with this deck at the current moment. It's just really just consistency, and also you lose to like Bestials and Shifter and Chummies. You lose to Pearlia, you lose to Furos, you lose to Droll. It is what it is, but you don't actually lose to Nibiru too much because you can summon this boy right here and then negate just about everything. So if your opponent lets you play, then you're in a really good position. The Black Gold Laughs is a really broken card. I would actually main deck it at this point just because it's basically a board breaker going second. And yeah, I would actually probably play less hand traps because this was maybe a little too much. 3, 6, 8, 10, 11, 13, 16. Yeah, hold on a second. 13 hand traps? Okay. No, 16 hand traps maybe, right? With 4 of these anti-hand trap cards, so yeah, 20. Yeah, basically half of the deck is like non-engine. And again, a deck that I consider like a big combo deck. So I would just scale down a little bit with non-engine, play more engine cards, have a more consistent deck, and that would probably be a little better. But again, he is the White Forest. I mean, he's the guy who topped the YCS with White Forest and not me. So I can't criticize too much. Still very nicely done. But yeah, that's it for this video, guys. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe. And I'll see you guys very soon. Peace.